Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. A big update on the roster mania action with Demon1 officially confirming his new contract with whatever organisation he's going to is officially signed and confirming that he's officially free from the shackles of evil geniuses. Big reactions here from all parties. Lots elsewhere going on in the Valorant world. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Firstly, we know there's been lots of reaction to Tier 2 over the last few days. Lots of reaction from the pros and players and who's at fault, what the future is, all this type of stuff. Which organizations might actually stay as well, of the few that actually decide to. Even Zekken says that there's some sort of correlation between Tier 2 dying and ranked becoming more unbearable. So, don't know what you guys think about that, but obviously it's a common frustration the pros have. And even Sassy kind of weighed into this from the Brazilian perspective, because I've said that I think one of the issues, especially in the Americas, is that, I mean, look, we've got the Guards coming in as the 11th team, and sure, in a couple of years, there'll be 14 teams in every single league. So that's the cap, basically, because they're going to do 2 years, 2 years, 2 years as like the slot, and then it's going to cap at 14 teams per league from Ascension over the next couple of years, with the guest slots kind of rotating in and out and all this type of stuff. So sure, in a few years time 14 teams will make it through, but for now there is 6, maybe you can just say 5 teams from North America and then 5 teams from South America, LATAM, Brazil, stuff like this. So getting spots, if you're a North American pro, getting one of those 25 spots is very challenging. And if your entire livelihood is either, well, I get one of 25 spots in the world for my, for my region, or I compete in Tier 2, which isn't well supported, doesn't really exist, you don't have many options. The only other option really for players like, Rossi and Narrate and others is to go to the Pacific or to EMEA or something like this, which is a valid option, but it just becomes more challenging. But that also applies in the Brazilian region as well, and we've heard this talked about before by other players, that, well, there's only a few Brazilian teams, and if you're a Brazilian player, you're not really going to be joining, okay, Sentinel's got a couple of Brazilian guys, but you're generally going to be joining Brazilian teams as opposed to North American teams where the language, culture, and, it can work, and we've seen it with Sentinels, they can put things together, but even now it's only Sassy left on Sentinels, right? And these international teams can work, but don't always. Even in CS history, we see similar examples of exactly that. So it just makes things challenging for players from Brazil or from other regions to find a team that works in Tier 1. And because there's less opportunities in Tier 1, it makes Tier 2 more challenging to operate in for the players, for the organizations, and for others. So Sassy says, like, fair play to everyone just trying to make this work, especially in Tier 2, thanks to the orgs, thanks to the players trying to make this happen. But, the effort, hopefully, will be paying off, but it just makes things very difficult. Now, FlyQuest actually say that they're going to stay around. So FlyQuest Red, they, I think this is their Game Changers team, so fair play to them for keeping this around. And obviously, there's lots of talk as well about, well, FlyQuest and Evil Geniuses, and we thought maybe there was a chance that FlyQuest would even get the spot over EG in the main Valorant Partnership League. Because some organizations are committed, they've got the resources to be able to do it. Some of them most certainly aren't, right? And EG are one of those organizations right now. Even this, for example, from ESL Counter-Strike, that effective 1st of January, they've ended the team's Louvre agreement, so they will now be out of, not even in the Pro League anymore. So their member slot, previously held by EG, will now be added to the pool. So it's like, EG, they're out of League of Legends, they're now basically out of Counter-Strike as well. I mean, their Counter-Strike project has been such an absolute shambles over the last couple of years, and is the future holding something similar for Valorant? The latest rumor is that no, EG are going to keep their spot and it's all fine for now. But I don't know if it'll be all fine for that much longer. Of course, it's also not a good look for Riot if your World Championship winning team therefore ceases to exist next season. Like the team that literally won champs, you start the next season and you've kicked them out of partnerships. It's not really great, is it? So I think from Riot's side, they maybe feel like they kind of have to keep them around for now, but I don't know if that will necessarily be the case forever. Now, wanted to mention on PRX quickly, they put together a phenomenal skit here, really, where there was honestly some quality acting going on with all the parties here. And, we've got Forsaken choking on main stage, basically. But actually, we get Jinggg involved in this a fair bit. So Jinggg comes into play. We see him, like, make his points known at some point in this. If we just scroll through, Jinggg, here he is as the Doctor. But actually, at the end of this little skit, Jinggg actually comes on the screen and says, like, hey, Jason, I'm here, like, don't be scared and all this stuff. Just wake up. And then he basically says, let's go to practice. Jason, wake up, we have to practice type thing. So what do you guys think about this? Because we saw at the Africa TV tournament, Jinggg was there in attendance, playing at the event, surprisingly so. Nobody expected Jinggg to come along and actually play. Monyet's now come in as Jingg's replacement. But no, Jinggg was there, playing in the tournament, helping, had a phenomenal series at times, especially against the Sentinels guys. They eventually lost, but he completely dominated them on that Sunset, you guys probably remember. So... and now he's still here. So what's going on? Now, we believe that Jinggg is still going to be stepping in to do mandatory military service, right? And that's why he has to be leaving the team. But I don't know, is there anything more to it than that, right? Just because the fact that Jinggg is still around, and sure, you might say, right, well, they're keeping Jinggg around just because it's nice to have him as part of the organization, and then next year is when he has to do his service, and that's when he's going to step away and be fully retired. But I just think it's a little bit interesting that he's been playing for the team recently. He's now... in their videos saying to, Forsaken, okay, we've got to practice. And of course, it is also making some people think, well, is this more to this, that meets the eye? They found a way for him not to do it and he's going back on the team. I don't know, but it's just one thing to have a look at over the coming weeks, I guess. There's also this from Fnatic, an official confirmation that Mini is back. We know that Mini was their former head coach. And then after the season, Mini said that, to focus on what he wants to get out of life and just the amount of challenge that it is, understandably, to be a head coach of one of these teams, the amount of hours, the amount of time, and, wants to be a bit more of himself rather than just be the head coach of Fnatic all of the time. So they then decided that he was going to step away as the head coach of the team. They brought in Elmer Puddy as their new head coach, but they were trying to find a way that Mini could make it work as an assistant coach, whether that's working remotely or whatever the case is, just to keep him around because, it was obviously been a massive part of their recent success. And even Elmer Puddy says, only a few weeks in, but Mini's unsurprisingly been great to work with. Glad to have him staying at Fnatic. So yeah, Mini Jake is going to stay around and, so he dropped down from the head coach, but he is going to be an assistant coach still, which is pretty cool stuff. And, okay, actually mentioned it here, working remote for the split in Berlin, but going to internationals, presuming that we qualify. So, yeah, I think that's pretty good. I guess that makes sense. They found an arrangement that works for both parties, which I think is definitely nice to see. Just before we talk about the NRG stuff with Demon1 potentially, got to talk about this from China. We know that a Chinese Valorant league is kind of popping off lately. It's been their big progress and development really on what Valorant are trying to do, what Riot are trying to do in China in recent time, because massive market, of course. However, China, the Chinese government and everything, they're not so keen on video games, right? And we've known this for several stories over the last couple of years. So as a result of this, they've pushed out several regulations requiring spending limits on online games, banning daily login rewards, requiring game approvals to be processed, banning live streaming of heavy tipping within games. So just a few things they're bringing in, which are obviously quite significant. Banning online games from offering probability-based luck draw features to minors, which is probably a good thing. But, some of these things are going to affect Valorant, of course. And it actually means that the stocks of these respective parties, like Tencent especially, they've just been not exactly wiped off the face of the earth, but I think they've lost a huge amount of value over the last few days, in the $50 billion range, something like that, in terms of just value on their stock as a result of these changes from the government affecting the video game industry over there. So whether this is going to have massive consequences for the Valorant ecosystem in China, it will have some impact. Whether it's going to affect the growth of esports in China on its own, maybe not, but if it indicates the intention of the government regulators, then maybe, it's going to be a harder time for Riot than maybe they potentially predicted. But the market is potentially so lucrative that, of course, they're still going to try. So let's talk about NRG. They do a pretty funny tweet here, to be fair. Y'all kept telling us to drop our Valorant roster, i.e. drop the knowledge on what it's going to be, reveal it type thing. So, yeah, we dropped them. Goodbye, Victor. Goodbye, Crashies. Goodbye, Chet. So, thank you, NRG Valorant. And they, of course, will be back over the coming days, especially with this man in play. So, Demon1 finally drops the contract signing graphic. I've expected this for a long time, but it seems that officially, as of yesterday, today, whatever, the deal is now done. And it's not just the fact that he drops this, but also his caption, right? Oh my god, I'm finally free from all of that. So we've expected this announcement for a very long time now, that Demon1 would kind of confirm what's going on, but it seems like Demon1 to NRG is now going to be a done deal. He's free of the shackles of all geniuses, the contract jail. We thought he was going to be stuck there. That would never be a good outcome for either party, right? EG probably could have decided that we're not selling Demon1 for any cost, and I don't know if there was a buyout figure kind of presented in the clause of the contract that could be reached. But if there wasn't, then they could have just kept Demon1. But like, that's not going to work well for either party. Demon1 doesn't want to be there. Other organizations want him. It's just better for EG to take the money and run, and they certainly need the money at the moment. So NRG, I'm guessing they've negotiated a buyout figure. The deal with NRG is now done, and Demon1, no longer contracted to EG, is massively thankful of that one, and drops that finally free effectively from the shackles. We even get Marved in the replies here. They can't hide it, can they? Congrats, good luck in your next adventure. So yeah, looks like Marved and Demon1 are going to be teaming up on that roster in the relatively near future. And George Geddes, he's now got this like exit frag account to do these leaks on and stuff. But this is what he says, signed and sealed. Is this the best move in the offseason? Now, that's obviously a tough thing to say. But Demon1 was the best player in the world at the end of last season, and now he's going to join NRG. So, there's obviously questions about this team, how it's going to work from certain aspects. But as far as I'm concerned, there's no way this can possibly be a bad move. Like, NRG getting Demon1, what an acquisition for them to get. And it's kind of funny how it worked out that NRG, it seems like, were just flailing around, doing nothing, struggling to get the players they wanted. Other teams moved faster, but while other teams were moving faster, EG were breaking up, right? And we didn't know that EG were breaking up immediately. Other teams had already made moves. Let's not forget, it was pre-World Championship that the other teams a lot of the time were actually making their decisions. So NRG, by waiting around a little bit, biding their time, trialing many different rosters, have not exactly lucked into this situation, but, they found themselves in a position still making changes while EG were just completely collapsing, which has opened the door for them to get this move done. So, that's Demon1's reaction, that's Marv's reaction. I guess when we see this confirmed, when we get the full roster, we can really discuss and see some reactions to how this team might perform, how the roles are going to work, some other benefits or potential drawbacks this team might potentially have. Speaking of some of those players involved, thought this is kind of cool. All-time VCT stats for Raze ult kills with a showstopper. Jinggg, unsurprisingly, is highest tier by quite some margin. Victor is then second place, but I will say that the highest on a per map basis overall is actually Alpha, who hasn't used it that much compared to others such as Durka, and obviously Jinggg is like, he's always the Raze for PRX, at least, going into this upcoming season. So Alpha has not played that many maps with it, but actually is averaging 2 kills per map with it, whereas even Jinggg is only averaging 1.5 kills per map with the showstopper, which is probably about what you might expect. And just one final thing here that I always think when I see this in esports, I think it's an interesting debate whether this is good or bad. So this is a 1 versus 1 camera where the Chinese league likes to use it. Do you guys like this or not? Because I've always found these 1v1 cams often... This I don't mind on this occasion, but I think sometimes they're a bit confusing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know who I'm going to watch, You can watch either side, but you can't watch the gunfight from both points of views. So I think it's probably a good idea that when the gunfight's about to happen, they go back to just one camera, one point of view, because I think sometimes it's a bit overwhelming, and I kind of prefer the idea that you can, maybe a picture-in-picture, so you have one point of view, and then it maybe in the top right-hand corner or something, you then show the other player's point of view, so you can kind of see what they're doing as well. But I think it makes the gunfight look a bit cleaner, whereas there's a bit too much going on here, and I'd prefer the observers just to decide who we're going to watch, like whose point of view is more interesting in this situation. But very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.